Today's podcast is presented by Podgo. Podgo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for ad space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from Podgo. I recently joined as a member, and you can too. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with the advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co.
And please put unprofessional development in the "How did you hear about Podgo?" That will give us a little finder's fee. Thank you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very observant episode of Unprofessional Development. I'm Tedisco.
And I'm Mealy. And today we have with us Charles Williams, who I don't know when this episode is coming out. I'm going to guess it's coming out post-Palooza, as the kids say.
But who is the kids say?
They say post-Palooza. Yeah, pre-Palooza.
Yeah, I've heard that rapper. Love post-Palooza.
Yes, he's so much better than Post Malone. But anyway, he deserved his Grammy or whatever. Anyway, so we've got Charles Williams, who is a teacher or a principal and a podcaster and a consultant and just a Renaissance man in the education field. So we're just going to enjoy some time with him and talk about some stuff and maybe kind of like help to break down that barrier that sometimes exists between the teacher and the admin, that sometimes we need to shake hands across the aisle and see what we can do to make the
observer and the observey.
Yeah, to kind of make that more collaborative as opposed to adversarial is the words I try to make it. So,
how are you doing today, Charles?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be on the show. Super excited to connect with you guys for the upcoming Edupalooza, right?
Awesome.
Even so, if you are listening to this afterwards, I hope that you guys enjoy everything that we delivered to you. But thank you for allowing me to be in this space with you.
Oh, yes, yeah. Thank you. So we like to try and give people like goofy writing prompts or whatever, introduction biography, not biology, biography, but there's, anyway.
No, school's over.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Welcome to Intro to Biology.
Yes.
The mitochondria is the powerhouse.
The house of the cell. Yes. Gametes is a thing. Okay. Kings play chess on fine-grained sand. All right. Which my dad taught me. Kingdom, phylum, class on fine-grained sand. Order, family, genus, species. Okay. So.
Anyway. What were we doing? Oh, yeah. Podcast.
My very elderly mother just sat upon 9 pins, even though Pluto is no longer a planet. Sorry. I know so many of those.
How do you still have those memorized? Wow, those mnemonics are
Holmes, okay, which is something with H. Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. What's the H? Great Lake. Huron. Okay. Huron, yeah. Sorry. Back to Charles and his biography. So imagine you're a GPS system that's taking us from like where you started and to now, and all the turns and when you kept straight for a while and bore this way and bear right and left.
And when did you need to start recalculating?
Yes, that's true. When did you recalculate? So as you kind of walk through your education bio journey. Go for it.
Yeah, so I really liked this question, and I was thinking about the GPS, and I said, you know what, to make it a little more accurate, I'm going to have to go back to MapQuest printouts.
Nice.
Yes.
Because you thought you knew where you were going, and then one mistake, and it was all over from there.
Yes.
And so I say that my educational journey was in that way because it was not a traditional trajectory. Like, first of all, when people ask, like, you're doing all these amazing things in education, like, this is awesome. Like, can you tell me how you got started? And they're waiting for that. Like, I always wanted to be an educator.
Right.
And I was like, no, I didn't. And they're like, wait, what? So absolutely, when I was in college, so my grandmother kept telling me to go into education. And, I was pushing back. Like, there's no way.
It's her fault.
Yeah. But it was, I went to school for communications and PR. Mine, had another major in English, and I was going to do PR for the district where I went to school. And I said,
okay.
Yeah, sure. Why not? And then they said, can you teach an English class? Sure. I know that. And suddenly I wasn't doing like any PR, just all teaching, fell absolutely in love with it. And then, so I went back to school, right? And that started down that pathway. So I got my master's in teaching. Then I realized I want to do more with this. And so I had a goal to become an administrator by the time I was 30. and absolutely hit that. So went back to school, got my master's in educational administration, became an administrator. And again, it was like, all right, I'm an assistant principal. We're going to do this for a few years, right? That's the plan. So as an AP, I went to China for 2 weeks through this program that we had at school. And while I was gone, my principal resigned.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
I was like, wait, what? Like, that is not how this is supposed to go, right?
Yeah.
So
this is when you're driving and the MapQuest directions tell you to go down this road and the road's closed.
Yes.
Yeah, the road's closed, or, it doesn't exist, right?
Right.
Like, wait, what?
That's a lake. I can't turn that way.
Yeah. I'm not, from Michael from The Office, just like.
Exactly.
It said to turn. So yeah, she told me, she said, go for it. And I said, that's not how this works, right? You're supposed to be a teacher for a few years, AP for a few years. She's like, you are ready. So I did. And they were like, yeah, we want you. And I was like, are you sure? Like, were the rest that bad? Like, what happened here? I was so nervous. But I jumped in, and here I am, years later being a principal, and it has been an amazing journey. And so I've been able to do a lot of different things with that. My first 3 years as a principal, I'll be honest, I was in 3 different schools. Again, not part of my plan, but my management company was like, awesome, now we need you over here. Awesome, now we need, and I was like, stop moving me. Right? So,
detour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So I've been in my last school now, where I'm at now. We just wrapped up year number 5. And it's been great. And
so it's starting to feel like home now, I guess, right?
It is. It is. And, the pandemic has actually offered a ton of opportunities. So the podcast, the shows, the books, like I'm doing, now it's branching off into all these other areas. So it's exciting, and it's far from over. So I'm curious to see. At least I think now maybe I have Google, even though I'm not listening to her and she's consistently yelling at me. No, turn up now.
Nice.
Rerouting.
I worked with this assistant principal who, like you had been, the district had moved her like once every year or every other year for like the first 8-10 years of her career. Oof. I know. I don't know what the whole story was. That it was her. It was situations. When they move you, sometimes it's you. Sometimes there's a problem over here and we need to fill this hole. So we're borrowing from this and that. I explain that to teachers sometimes when they get their schedule messed up. I'm like, you do the same thing when you do your seating chart, and the kid goes, but I really like sitting here. And you say, I didn't want to move you. I had to move Charlie. And when I moved Charlie, that meant I had to move you to move him. But anyway, at the end of each year, because I came in one year and she had all these boxes in her office, and I'm like, I said, are you leaving? She goes, well, they've moved me every year or every other year for the past 8 years. And it sucks to pack up when they tell you literally like weeks before school starts. She's like, so I just pack up every year. I put the stuff in my garage and I bring it back. If I come back,
there's a country song in that story somewhere. That's awful.
Yeah. Okay.
Packing up the box to go nowhere.
Yeah, but can you imagine that? That's so sad. But
all right, so I'm curious too. All right, so first off, just in terms of formatting, like as teachers, I always go like by my last name. When your teachers or admin talk to you, do they call you Charles? Do they call you Williams? Like,
yeah, it's Williams.
Nice.
It's weird when I hear my first name. Like
me too.
It's like my wife doesn't call me by my first name. My kids don't call me by like nobody. So every once in a while, when somebody says it, it's like, ooh, wait, what? That sounds weird.
Who?
Yes.
Looking behind you. So Williams, I'm curious. Like I've seen this happen with a lot of administrators. You said you wanted to be AP by 30. So when you took over as principal, it wasn't expected. About how old were you ish? Like you were still around 30.
Yeah, I was 31.
So I'm curious, like I've seen this happen in a lot of schools that I've worked in where young admin really have an uphill battle. I've seen that sort of like almost reverse ageism there, where people will see young admin and be like, well, you're as young as my kid. I don't need to listen to you. Did you experience any of that when you took over as admin? Yeah,
a lot. And it was weird, right? Even with some of my teachers, at least they knew who I was. So there was that helped because it wasn't like there was just this kid sitting in there talking to them.
Right.
So, they already saw, okay, we know who he is. We know what he's capable of. It was hard when I moved buildings, and really, really hard when I was in principal spaces. Like when I went to my first principal conference, they were looking like, you're not supposed to be here.
Can you get us some coffee?
Here to serve water? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing here? And so, my voice, my experience, it wasn't there, right? It had no power, anything. And so it has taken a long time for that to kind of catch up, right? The gray hairs to start forming for them to say, okay, now we believe you, right? Now we hear what you have to say. But yeah, it was a struggle in the beginning.
Wow. What did you, like, is there anything you did to overcome that? You just had to bite the bullet and deal with it?
Yeah. You know, I think for me, it was just like, I'm going to show you. Like, I know you don't believe me. So let me demonstrate it through my actions, through all the things that I'm doing. And eventually that was like, oh no, this guy's, he's for real. He's serious. He knows what he's doing. But I had to prove that. And I will be honest, there are still some days when I feel like I have to prove myself. Right? Like, you know, when I'm sitting in spaces and I say this, right, with some of these edgy celebrities and these like, no, I have to prove myself because you have 40,000 followers or you've been doing this for 30 years. And I'm like, I'm a young guy.
I imagine even when like you have that meeting with the parents that come in because, you know, I'm going to go with the stereotypical spoiled brat, parent, or kid that has done something stupid. And then here comes, mom and dad Moneybags to sit with the principal. And now all of a sudden they look and they see, we're going to just run over this little baby right here and tell him how things go with Junior when Junior gets in trouble. Did you have any experiences like that?
Yeah, but you know, so I've always been in title school, so I've never had mommy Moneybags.
Okay.
But I definitely have had parents who are like, oh yeah, you definitely don't know. I'm going to challenge you, right? So, oh, well, that was a violation of title, blah, 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 just to see it. I'm like, no, like, but yeah, definitely. You know, again, it was early on this idea of we are going to challenge your position, what you know, your ability, just everything. And so that was one of my other frustrations, right? Bouncing from 3 schools in 3 years, it was really hard to demonstrate that, like, this is who I am. Yeah. Because it was like by the time I was starting to get there, then I was moving schools, right? I was packing up my boxes.
There you go.
So yeah, but that was the biggest thing, right? Like I'm just going to demonstrate it to you.
I was going to say, did you have a mentor or someone that you could confide in that was kind of guiding you along the way? Because I think also that it can be challenging. This not just for you, but for young teachers. Sometimes they can almost swing the pendulum too far and try and overdo it or try and be too much of a tough guy or tough gal to try and like prove their. I
definitely did that like my first year's teaching. Yeah.
Yeah. Where you were like, okay, you're going to see
the authority figure. They're like, you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. I wish I did, right? In the very beginning, because the mistakes that I made are like insane. But it was much later on. And so I've started to become affiliated with these principal organizations. And to be honest, that's one of the reasons why, you know, we started this inside the principal's office because, you know, there are so many networks for teachers, right? And there are like principal associations, but we get together for a conference once a year. And like, that's it. Yeah. And no, we need a structured space, a safe space to come together, connect and learn and grow. I just wish that I had what I've had these last like 3 years. I wish that I've had my entire career. Yeah. I mean, it's worked out, but I think, you know, what impact could it have had? Because I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. And like you said, right? Sometimes overcompensating, you know, the guy in that, like, you know, big rig with monster wheels. Right. Like, I was way overcompensating when I didn't really have to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And sorry for you big wheel truck people out there.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. They'll get over it. They'll get over it. Okay.
They can't hear the podcast over the sound of the engine.
No.
Oh, there you go.
I'd like to see the Venn diagram of people with really big wheeled trucks and people who listen to podcasts. I'm get a really tiny sliver of crossover there.
Don't stereotype me, like you don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure that Venn diagram crosses over. I just don't think it's a big crossover. Okay.
Wait, why are we making a podcast again?
Because we like to watch movies and yell about them.
They yell about directors, yell about the plot, yell about the acting, but they also talk a lot. But mostly Josh and Cassie yell about the movies.
Hey everybody, I'm Cassie.
And I'm Josh.
And we are the hosts of the brand new podcast, Josh and Cassie Yell About Movies.
Each week, we're breaking down a different film and sharing our unique perspectives and holding nothing back.
And fair warning, this is a spoiler-heavy podcast, so yeah, just be aware of that, please.
Do we make jokes, or is there anything else?
Gosh, I hope so. I have fun laughing at you.
Well, thanks. And we yell about movies, is that right?
That's right. We upload new episodes on Tuesdays, so hopefully we'll see you then.
Thanks for listening.
I think we've kind of touched on this, but this is another challenge. It sounds like we've hinted at it. How do you, as a principal, balance serving all the different people? We've talked about all these different people and hit on them, but you're trying to please district leaders. You're trying to please maybe a school board, maybe some people who have influence on the school board, who are the movers and shakers, mom and dad moneybags, or people in the community who are very politically active. You're trying to please your teachers. You're trying to make sure you're serving your students. Like, how do you find that balance? And how do you, when you are making decisions or doing things, how do you make sure you're looking at all of those lenses when you do that?
Yeah, so you know what? There's two aspects of this. So the first thing I think that's just super important for leaders, and this is probably one of the very first things you should do, not like later on in your career like I did and learn the hard way. Identify your core values and beliefs.
There you go.
You have to understand your why and why you're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do that, center yourself in that, because if you start trying to chase all of those stakeholders and trying to make all of them happy for the things that they value and believe, you're never going to be centered.
Yeah.
And your actions are really never going to become aligned, and it's going to be a mess. You're just putting out fires all day long.
Yeah.
So instead of that, say, no, these are my beliefs, these are my core values, and I'll operate from in that space,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now when a teacher comes to me, I'm operating out of that space. When a parent comes to me, I'm operating out of that space. And what happens then is that people begin to realize that those are your values and your beliefs. And so when I come to you, I know that's what I'm going to be getting. I can't just ask for whatever and expect you to do, my bidding whenever I want. And if you're not careful, that happens. And so the other side of that, the second part is, and I know we talk about this a lot and it comes up a lot, but it's really building those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I know you and you know me, right, then again, it comes into that, you know where I'm operating from. And it's a lot less stressful when you're not pretending to be someone you're not and trying to like, oh, I'm just going to make you happy and put on that smiling face. And
right.
Like, it's exhausting and you will never get anything done. So say no, like, and I'll be honest. So and maybe this is one of the reasons I moved my first school. I value education. We are there for the kids.
Right.
That is one of the things that are important to me. And so we had a dress code, and I remember it was very strict. It was, and I've talked about this, there was about hair colors, and there was like from a hair salon, this board that was in my office from my previous principal.
Oh my God.
Like we could compare hair colors, and if
oh
it
my
didn't
God.
match the natural hair color, you had to go home. I chucked the board. I was like, that's stupid. Right? Same thing. If a kid had like different color socks on than what were allowed, right? And I was like, no. And the board and we clashed because I told them, I said, we're both in education, but we're in it for different reasons.
Yeah.
I need my kids in the building because when they're in the building, they're learning.
Right.
They're not learning when they're sitting at home. They're not learning when they're sitting in the dean's office.
No.
And so I don't care if the kid has neon orange socks.
Right.
They're staying in class. I don't care if a kid comes in with blonde hair, but he's black. Like, he's going to be sitting in class.
Right.
Like, and that is what it is. And we fought, and I wasn't there the next year, but I sat in my values and my beliefs. I was like, no, this is what I believe in. And it's scary because sometimes when you do that, you're like, maybe this isn't going to work out. And I tell people all the time, like, if it doesn't work, then that's not the place for you. Like, you're going to find that place where you fit. And maybe it's going to be uncomfortable and scary until that happens, but it's going to happen. So definitely sit in your values and your beliefs.
Yeah.
You are the second admin we've had on who said something like that. When we had Hepworth on, we asked him like what advice he would give, and he said, know who you are because everything will try and change you.
Yeah.
And he said you could really lose yourself if you're not careful. Like, that's very interesting. So, that pressure from all angles there.
I was gonna say, did you want to like give your like elevator pitch for your personal core values other than what you've already said?
Yeah.
What's the Williams way?
Yes.
So I believe in, I had the statement, and it fluctuates in its words, but the reality is I'm going to do what's best for my people, my staff, my students, right? And through those, I talk about three different things: access, aspiration, and advocacy. So those three A's, I think a lot of times admin focus on students. And I always talk about like what you do with your staff is just as important with what you do with your students.
Yeah.
Like, you can't ignore them. So those 3 A's: aspiration. Like, I want to make sure that you are aspiring to be the best that you could possibly be. Right? I want you to know what you're capable of. Right? So in order for that to happen, then, is I need to provide you with access to those opportunities. Like I said, I have worked in Title I schools my entire time, and a lot of times we just don't get invited to things. We're not participating in things. So I put myself into spaces and say, my kids and my staff are going to be here. Right. And that's when, so one of my favorite stories is in Chicago, there was a Boeing competition. So they were building rockets.
Yeah. And
kids from all over the city participated. And I found out about it, and I said, I'm signing my kids up. And my kids were terrified. They were like, why would you do that to us? We don't want to go. And I said, no, you're going, because you're going to go in and be amazing. I know what you're capable of. And they went back, and they were so excited. They'd come in 3rd place.
Nice.
Wow. Chicago. So the next year, we were invited back, and a group of my little 5th grade girls took the entire thing.
Nice. Wow. Nice.
And I was like, see, guys, I told you, right? I believed in you, and I had to create the access to that opportunity, because normally those things wouldn't be granted to you. And so you just went and, embarrassed an entire city, some very, very wealthy schools.
Yes.
And we're just this tiny little school on the far west side of Chicago. And so the last part, and that plays into what I was just doing, is advocacy, right? Because I need to constantly be an advocate for my staff and my students at all times. And so, things branch off from there, but that's what I root myself in. I need to make sure that I am, making sure that they're aspiring to great things, making sure that they have access to those opportunities. And when it doesn't happen, that I'm an advocate for you.
Wow. Yeah. That's way better than my answer. I think my core beliefs would be live, laugh, love.
Eat.
I think I have that tattooed somewhere. No.
Yes. I'm gonna circle back just for a second, because I am and have become more and more an anti-dress code soapbox person, and I want to kind of play how I deal with the counter arguments that people present. So the first one is, well, we want them, to prepare them for the real world, and they need to blah, 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 blah. And I just love the fact that the real world dress code has changed so much in the past 10 to 15 years that, like, by the way, the richest people in the world are wearing black t-shirts and jeans. You know what I mean? I'm like, they are not wearing the white button-down shirt and the red tie and the blue suit, and their hair, with the exact same, haircut. So that's that. And then the other one that gets thrown a lot, especially particularly in high school, is modesty. And I've heard this question like, well, do you think that the young boys can focus on school if the girl next to them is dressed, such and such a way? And I'm like, do you realize he's also thinking about his Instagram followers, the arguments his parents had last night, whether or not he's got candy and when he can eat it. I said, yes, he might be distracted by the cleavage of the young lady, in the seat next to him, but he's also distracted by about 25 other things as well. So just having her button up is not going to all of a sudden stop him from being distracted. It's just going to be something different that he's distracted by.
I've never seen the study that showed that, like, getting rid of dress code dropped grades. Like, I've never, the males we allowed short mini skirts, and all of a sudden, all the males in our class just bombed. Well, yes. 90%.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
And I'll say this, Mealy, like, my wife and I, we have 5 daughters. And
oh, wow.
To me, it's always insane when they have these dress codes that target the female population.
Right.
Right. It talks about the shorts, and the tank tops, and the midriffs, and it's like all the things that
other than hats and hoodies. Hats and hoodies is how they get the guys, and then that tends to be a little more
and pants slacking down.
And those are all generally race based. Yes.
Right. But when you say that, right, like, it's your fault that your peer can't study. It's like, I've done nothing wrong.
Right.
When you talked about the real world, the question is, like, what world are you actually preparing them for, that they're all dressed in the same outfit, doing the same things?
That's called prison.
Pretty sure I know that space. Right?
And how many people, like, these days work from home? Like, they're growing up in a post-COVID world. A lot of their jobs can be home-based. Yes. They could do it in their PJs. We should allow PJs at school.
Yes, I know.
If we all stood up right now. No, I'm joking.
I will neither confirm nor deny that accusation. I feel.
Okay. So boys and girls, we have some fun planned for you today. We're going to do some role playing. Okay. Which does not mean we are going to Golden Corral and throw the rolls at each other, which would be another. Ooh, those rolls are so good at Golden Corral. The yeast rolls?
That was a pun that did not need to be made.
Okay.
By the way, we have done role play on the podcast once before. It did not go well.
What did we do?
We did the improv game.
Oh yeah, but that wasn't role playing. Yeah. No, that was horrible. Yes. We tried. My apologies.
To be a student on the moon.
My apologies to Aviva, who surely was trying to carry us, but what was I trying to be?
Student.
Okay.
Who was getting in trouble in French class. Anyway, we're not doing that kind of role playing.
No, we're not doing that kind of role playing. So we're going to do two.
Golden Corral kind.
Or the Golden Corral. Yeast rolls. Oh my goodness. So good with that butter. But anyway.
We're going to pause some like
insert your favorite, free bread here, whether it be Olive Garden or,
the Red Lobster cheddar rolls.
Oh,
I was just about to say, like,
yeah.
That's absolutely the correct answer.
What about the Carrabba's with the oil and the, yes. You never go to Carrabba's? They put that olive oil and they put those herbs and then you take that.
Carrabba's?
It's an Italian restaurant or Italian, depending on where you're from.
Like another Olive Garden.
No, it's nicer than Olive Garden.
Well, everything's nicer than Olive Garden.
Yeah. But they take this olive oil and they put it on the plate and then they spill these Italian herbs and then you take your thinly sliced Italian bread and you dip it in and you eat it. Oh my goodness, it's so delicious. Oh, so good. Anyway. How do you know what Carrabba's is?
Because I had real Italian food. I'm from Long Island.
Okay. Yes. Anyway. So back to
what we're doing. Oh yeah, podcast.
Yes. Role playing. So we're going to play because principals, two of the most intimidating things for teachers when they deal with principals are when they go for a job interview and when they have a post-observation conference with their, when the principal walks in their classroom when they're teaching, but that's too hard to role play. But both those things that generally give people the scaries when they have to deal with principals and these things. So we're going to kind of role play these things and see how it goes and have some fun with it and see what we can do in terms of getting inside the mind of the principal. So if you can kind of like, as we do it, we can deconstruct what you're saying, what you're thinking and how it goes. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
I
was really afraid that you're going to have Tedesco be the young lady who distracts me as a student.
Yes. Button that shirt up, Tedesco. Good gravy. Okay. All righty.
It's hot.
Please no nip slips on the podcast. Okay. I went there.
Thank you for unsubscribing.
Yes.
And fun journey.
And now you know why it's called unprofessional development. Thank you. That's always see. There's that line. I'm like, what's on the other side of that?
I don't know. Let me streak past it and see how far I can get before I get tackled. So for the role play today, Mealy will be interviewing for a job.
Yeah, how's that going to go? Oh boy, let me get my fake professional, like I've never met Charles Williams, and I'm trying to actually get a job here. Attitude on.
Remember your why. Remember your why.
Remember my why. Okay. Alrighty. Firm handshake. Hello, Mr. Williams. Thank you for taking your time, and I know you're busy and allowing me to interview for this position. I'd really love to be an asset to your school.
Well, Mr. Mealy, I appreciate you coming here, and I have your resume here. But if you don't mind, I'm going to put it to the side, and I just want you to tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What was your journey like in education? But most importantly, why are you interested in joining us here at Insert School Name?
Well. For me, and I'm not, I don't think, oh boy, see, look at me. See, I'm already like stammering.
Getting flustered.
I am. See, that's the thing. I don't know. Let me take a breath. So.
You're doing great.
I suck at the interview part. I really do. But no, I'll say this, Mr. Williams. So I'm an old man. I'm 52 years old and I was raised in like the old school way. And when I first came into, teaching, I was very much the sage on the stage. I teach math. I do a few examples. We do a few examples together. Here's a worksheet and that's, and then I will collect that up and then here's 10 problems for homework. And that just work our way through the textbook or the units or whatever it is type thing. But since then, I've really found, and this is what I ask myself every day as I'm preparing my lessons, is do my kids feel safe? Do they feel loved? And are they learning? And generally in that order. So I want to create a safe environment where kids, for whatever situation they're coming from and into, feel that this is a place where they can be their true selves, and that where they feel loved, where they feel appreciated for who they are as a person and as a student. And then I know that that's when the learning can take place. And I really feel that learning takes place when I present opportunities for them to think, to problem solve, because where math can really be very algorithmic, and I can teach you how to, do long division, or I can teach you how to do systems of equations. What I really want to do is develop that part of your brain where you see problems, where you recognize patterns, and where you critically think to see how does this work and how does that work? Because I think that that's the skill that they take with them when they leave the classroom.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you have all this experience.
Okay. And first of all, did I talk too long there? As a principal, did I talk too long?
I let people talk. I'm always kind of curious where they're going to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. I asked that first question because I want to know, we just had 2 interviews, and that question about why do you want to be here? And I want to know, have you done your research?
Right.
Do you authentically want to be at my building? Because if you don't want to be here, I don't want you here either.
Right.
And I'll be honest. Somebody told me, was like, well, I was looking for positions and it popped up.
Wow.
Oh, really? So this was just you were bored, you wanted something to do,
a bit of whimsy.
Yes.
It's that's not what you say. That is one thing. And just for anybody, never say that.
Right. Right.
Do some research, right? And, and say,
how often do they say it's near my house?
I've had that. Well, it's close. It's a short commute.
Yeah.
Okay, no,
might be true, but don't tell the principal.
Exactly.
Right.
There's we could talk about that after you're hired.
Right.
Not before.
Right. Also, not something to tell somebody right after you meet them on OkCupid. Just
oh, wow.
It's the same sort of rules as a first date. Just saying I said yes because you're close.
Nice.
Yeah, you're close. I mean, I used to look at you with binoculars, but now it's face to face.
There we go.
Also not a good thing to say during an interview.
Yes.
Yes. Ooh, that could be a fun thing. Things not to say during an interview. Or a date.
There we go.
So, one of the other questions I always ask is, just tell me about your favorite lesson, right? I want to see that spark. I want to see if you light up. Because, you can teach, you can go, like you said, you go through the motions. But if you light up, oh yeah, let me tell, it's there it is.
Right.
There's that fire that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But I will ask you one of my favorites. So Mr. Mealy, if I were to ask one of your students, tell me about Mr. Mealy, what would they say?
Okay. They would probably say, it would probably start off with he's a little crazy. I'm generally known as being pretty chill. I almost never get angry. I'm not the teacher that yells. So that's always something that I kind of pride myself on. I used to be a little bit more of a yeller. And, that one of the biggest things that as I got feedback, at the end of the year this year was that he cares about us enough to change the pace at which he teaches. So, multiple times, particularly during this pandemic year, I realized okay, this is going too fast and everybody is not there. So let's just take a day and let's just regroup and let's make sure we're answering all the questions, finding out what all the misunderstandings are so that I don't go on and teach you the next thing without us having understood yesterday's lesson. So that's something that, I would say that they would say that I do on a regular basis.
Awesome.
That's a really good question.
So there's 2 others. There's 2 others that I'll ask.
Okay.
So if you were to join us here at Insert Name of School,
how
could we best support you as you turn or you continue to grow into the educator that you're striving to be?
Cool. So, one of the years that I grew the most was when I had a team member who challenged me, and it really made me reflect very much. I want someone who, when they hear an idea, isn't necessarily, a contrarian, but that says, well, why would we do it like that or how would it benefit the kids or whatever. So I would like a team member who I can collaborate well with. It's going to like both build me up and challenge me to do what I want to do. But and the aspect of that also is that if you can support me when I try something crazy, because I want to try different and things that I've never done before, to go ahead, Mealy, give it a whirl. And if you fall flat on your face, that's fine. We'll let you do something different, because I like to do different stuff to see if it's going to work or not. And I want to feel that if it falls flat, that I'm not going to be penalized for that.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, don't worry. I'll be there with the pillows. So I love that question, because one, it lets me know that they're reflective,
Mm-hmm.
right? That you can say, oh yeah, I need an area of growth. And it also lets me kind of know and figure out, like, do we have the tools and the skills, and are we going to be a good fit, for you?
Right.
But one of the last things I always ask, or at some point during the interview, not necessarily last, I say, so Cubs or Sox?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's... I'm going to say Panthers. Baseball is really boring, and if they can change the rule, I don't know how to change it, but I don't like it when when there's a man on first base who has the ability to steal, and the pitcher keeps throwing it to the first baseman to stop the guy from cheating off of the first base. That is the worst part of baseball. And if they could somehow take that away, then maybe I would start watching it again, because I would watch that and I'm like, I can't watch baseball now. This is literally 10 minutes.
Either add back in pegging as a rule, like kickball does,
Yes.
or tackle.
Yes.
If like full contact baseball.
That would be good. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe the first baseman could pick up the base and run away with it.
You can't be safe if you can't touch it.
Exactly.
Literally stole first.
Yes. There you go. Yeah. And do you root for one of those, by the way, or do you not care?
I am a Cubs fan.
Okay.
And so it's funny. Most of my school is a Cubs fan.
Okay.
Even though we are on the far west side, we're not north or south.
Okay.
We have one Sox fan. And so the other day I was interviewing someone and she was like, oh, I'm a Sox fan. I said, oh, you got one friend here, but this interview's over. So I try. So normally when we interview, I like for my little crew to be there. We'll all interview.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody comes in and they're super nervous, we try really, really hard to make them as comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
It's who we are as a school. We're a family.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an easy place to fit in. And so we try to make sure that you feel that during the interview. And so, I've had people who are so nervous, they're shaking. They almost look like they're crying.
Right.
I've had one person, had a full grand mal seizure in the middle of the interview.
Oh my goodness.
So much she didn't even remember that she was in the building.
Wow.
She called me and was like, hey, can we schedule that interview? And I was like,
Oh my God.
it was
Wow.
bad. And yeah. So it's like, I'm always trying to make sure that like you are as comfortable and relaxed as possible.
How do you discern that a teacher who's nervous in the principal's office from someone who might not, that would be too nervous and have that too much in the classroom? How do you know that they're not going to, that's not going to be like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen when they have like 20 kids in the room? And I know that there's a complete difference between those two levels of anxiety. But how do you as a principal figure out whether or not that's something that's a symptom of that?
So, I always bring them back. Like the interview is step one.
Right.
So like, I want to see you in the classroom with kids. And oftentimes, to be honest, I don't stay in there because I know you're going to put on a show for me.
Right.
I'm like, you're the kids. Like, they are now your interviewers. And I'll ask my kids, like, so how did it go? Like, and I've had, especially, I love my middle schoolers. They're crazy.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like, no, absolutely not. Like, nope. And that's a huge decision because, right, like we talked about, we need to make sure that our students have their voices heard. Right. And on the other side, I've had it where they're like, that person was awesome. Can they start like today? And it goes a long way. So I want to make sure that you're in those spaces. And the other part is just, and I've extended the invite, like hang out at the building for like half a day, right?
Yeah.
Hop into classrooms, hang out at lunch, because eventually your guard drops. Right?
Yeah.
And you're going to become the person who you are going to be during the year.
Yeah.
And that is who I want to see. I want to see how you're interacting with peers and students and, and that's the person, because we've had that, right? We hired in a pinch because you sounded great during the interview. And it's like, wait, who are you?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So
there's somebody who can talk to adults, but not necessarily kids.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just think that's an important part for leaders. Like, draw that out. Like, you may be in a rush, but take the time, because if you do it on the front end, it's so much less work on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be interviewing someone else or having to deal with all the challenges you deal with a principal when you have a bad hire and trying to figure out how to fix that, whether it's by coaching or
all year.
Yes.
And then some, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like every other job, I'm going to guess 80 to 90% of your job is dealing with 10% of the teachers that have whatever the challenges are, whether they be
the 80-20 rule.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the name of that law? I forget.
I don't know. All right. Okay. Well, I think that was really, really good. Okay. And so now we're going to do the other role playing game. And Tedisco, I'll let you, the ball is yours now.
Okay. So in this scene, so this is going to be like a post-observation conference. So you've already seen me teach in class. You've seen my lesson, on, I don't know, book X, and, done the observatoring. And now we're sitting down for our post-observation meeting with you as principal. I don't know if that was implied or not. So
awesome. So Tedisco, thank you for allowing me to come into your classroom and watch your lesson. I really appreciate it. So I know it's very easy as teachers for us to beat ourselves up and to rip things apart and to analyze ourselves. But what I really want to do, I want to start this conversation. Can you tell me what you felt went really well with your lesson?
I mean, probably not, because I'm too hard on myself. But I'll say, I think the students were engaged enough to learn, and I think that it was scaffolded enough that the struggling students learned as much as the average high flying.
I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that I was really proud of you when I was watching it is the way that you brought every student into that space. Whether or not they were reluctant, whether or not they were eager, you provided a space for every single student to be engaged and involved in the lesson. And I think it went a long way to make sure that they're truly understanding it. I'm looking forward to see what happens for the rest of the year. Now, I know that you said earlier that, you're really critical on yourself. So if there was one thing, just one thing that you thought could go better, what would that one thing have been?
Well, they all seemed bored. I think they hate the book, but they just said I have to keep it.
Yeah. Well, if you could resolve that, how would you resolve it?
I mean, if I could go back in time, I'd pick a better book, but we're already here. So, I don't know. If I could find like another text I could bring in to try to make this one more interesting and triangulate, I would, but I don't know if that's going to work in the timeline.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, if you have an opportunity to do that, take a look at a few. I'll try to do the same and share those with you. And you're right, we're in the middle of this lesson, and so I don't want you to shift gears and lose the momentum that you do have. But moving forward, let's take a look at that, right? Remember that the textbooks and those things, they're just a resource. And so we're always open to using whatever resources best fits you and your students. And awesome. That's not a lie. That's literally what we do. They're like, okay, this is no, this is who we are. So those are the first two things that we're going to talk about, right? What went well, what didn't go well. So my other questions would be things like, where do you plan on taking this lesson, next? I saw where we were today. We know what went well, what didn't go well. What are your next steps? Where do you plan on going?
Just real quick before I ask that, I do want to say I love the fact that you're constantly referring to like the classroom and the space and not directing a lot of comments about me as a teacher. So it doesn't feel as like personal, which makes this feel a lot better.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny how that small difference makes it changes everything. Where I'm going to next with this lesson. Well, we have a test next week that everybody in the PLC is giving. So I have to prepare them for that test. And I guess that's what we're going to focus on. So we're going to be talking about central ideas and themes over the next week.
Okay. All right. Did you create the test, or did the team create this one?
No, district.
Okay. All right.
It's okay.
So I'm curious, is there anything that happened before this lesson maybe that I should be aware of, or maybe something that I just may have missed during the lesson?
Yes. Yesterday we did a hands-on activity and they were all very excited about it.
Can you tell me about that activity?
Yes, and here are the details I'm going to list now. Insert details of lesson.
Yes. So, again, I believe, so just so you guys know, I don't like the too big observations, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a snapshot. It's
Yeah.
like an assessment, like
Right.
high stakes testing.
Yeah.
Like no. So literally what I do, I'm in classrooms all the time. So when I do come in, people aren't nervous. The kids don't act weird. So when I'm in there, what it is, it's creating like a portfolio. Lots of snapshots, lots of things. We talk in between. Those are the posts. And we try to figure out what is it that you want to work on. So like, for example, when you're like, yeah, the kids were bored. Like, all right, how can we increase engagement? And if it's like, oh, I don't like the content, like, well, how can we find better resources to fit our students? And we work on that throughout the year. So that way, when I'm popping in like April, like, you're like, no, this is rocking out now. I found these resources and things like that. Because again, and I don't get the educational system that we operate in. Because it's like, if it wasn't effective, then the kids aren't effective, and then the school isn't effective. I'm not effective. Like, no, I need to get you to be the best person you could possibly be. And just like you do with your students, you don't just assess them once and twice. Like, you're constantly assessing and providing feedback and helping them grow. And I do the exact same thing with my teachers. And like you said, I really try not to make it about you as a person, but how can we help support that space in the things that you're doing?
Awesome.
I like that a lot.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to say, it's not exactly the same thing, but whenever I'm working on problems with my students and they're like, I always refer to, an innocuous they, like they want us to find the slope of the line. Not I want you to find the slope of the line. They want us to find the slope of the line. And it really changes, like, now it's me and the student versus the content versus me and the content versus the student. And it really changes how they feel about it. You know what I mean? They've got a support, they've got an advocate, and now we're working to like, you know, I don't make the content out of some evil, like, you know, empire, but to some degree, sometimes it is
just the standardized test at the end.
Right. Sometimes it feels like that. It's like, okay, so how can we like overcome this, this thing? You know, what are they trying to make us figure out? Oh, and this is barely related to Disco, but I don't want to say it before I don't forget. Our boy Lavar Burton, yeah. If you ever listen to this podcast, please come on the podcast, Lavar Burton. But in between doing Jeopardy, I'm sure he's listening all the time. But he has his podcast where he just reads short stories, and I'm a huge. If you're not listening to Lavar Burton reads podcast, oh my goodness, it's just so much fun. But he did it's called Pockets. One of the stories that I had him that he read to me in my ear holes. Do you know the story Pockets, Tedisco?
No. Do you know the author?
No, but if you Google Lavar Burton Pockets,
I'll get a
podcast.
very weird Google image result.
Yeah.
You might, but it's on his podcast. Yeah. And it's really, really old. Without giving away too much of the story, because it has a really cool ending. But this person, every time they reach into their pocket, something that doesn't belong to them comes out. And they're all these different, like, kind of like found objects, and they're going through the whole, trying to break down this thing. I will give a spoiler. Okay. Then they find someone who puts things in their pocket and they disappear. So there's this whole pocket parallel universe thing going on. But then it like takes a
Einstein-Rosenberg bridge in their jeans.
Yes. But then it takes this twist and it gets really metaphysical, deep, introspective, like philosophical, almost like spiritual, like for the last couple pages or whatever it is. And it's just, I don't know. I'm like, oh, I would,
postmodernists.
if I would be a teacher, I would want to read this story because I just think it would have a lot of really cool discussions. So,
So, Mealy, I want to jump in and say this. So, you know, last night my wife and I were watching Big Bang, and it happened to have
LeVar Burton.
LeVar Burton.
Nice.
I just did our Inside the Principal's Office show this morning.
Yes.
And we spoke about LeVar Burton. You just brought up.
There we go.
So
LeVar Burton.
We said his name 3 times, which summons him.
Yes. Yes. LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton. Yeah.
That's great.
So, yeah. I mean, he is fantastic.
Before we move on to the next bullet, Williams, I do have a question for you about post-observation.
Sure.
So, you seem like so supportive and positive, and you know, Mealy and I don't know what this looks like because we're both amazing. So if you have a teacher who's not doing a great job, one of those people you hired without seeing how they were in the classroom, and they're struggling, they are bombing it. And during the post observation, like, have you ever had people who not done well and seem to always find something to blame?
Yeah.
And so how do you address that and redirect it without sitting them down and telling them, so you suck? Like,
so I say that beforehand.
Have you considered learning to code and maybe finding a new career?
Right.
Yeah, so it's always kind of, it's one of the reasons. So I ask those questions. I want you to be reflective, right? Because I know what I saw and I'm ready with my responses. And it's really, really nice when they align. And I'll be honest, if I'm talking to you, I'll try to like get your position to shift. And it's like, oh, that's interesting because I saw the same ththing. And now we're on the same page.
Right.
But there are individuals, as much as all that happens, right? Like you said, those 10%, it's not working. And I think it's important to have those conversations. And it's one of the reasons, again, why we don't wait and just do one big observation. Like we need to catch that early. We're going to identify an area that you need help with. And so one of the things we do in our school, so I have a teacher who also serves as an instructional coach. So you're going to be paired up with that person. If you're new to the building, you also have a mentor. I don't care if you're new to teaching and or to the building, but you're going to have somebody in the building who could say, hey, this is the Plato way. Like, we're going to get you acclimated to the building. Yeah. And so we meet as well. And we say, hey, pacing, for example, this teacher is horrible with pacing. So now I'm helping you with pacing. Your coach is helping you with pacing. Your mentor teacher is helping you with pacing. Like, and if you're just not getting it, it's like, what's going on there? And we're very transparent from the beginning and I've had to do that. Like, when we're getting to the end of the year, like, this isn't like, you're not here next year. Like, it's just like, and so there's no confusion about it. Like, when we have that conversation, it's like, no, yeah, like, you've been talking with me and providing me these resources all throughout. I mean, it doesn't stop the tears and the nose blowing or whatever. Right. But it makes that conversation that much easier to have instead of just saying, I've seen you twice. I didn't like what I saw. So now we're letting you go. Like, so it's never easy, but I think,
but hopefully it's not a surprise.
Right. And having those structures, right. And approaching it that way, it makes it that much easier to where if nothing else, like, we could feel confident, like, we've tried to provide you with as much resources and supports as we could. Yeah. Like, and it's just, this is not the best fit for you. And that's what we talk about. Like, you need to find a place that's a fit. I've had some teachers who would like great in that Montessori experience. Mm-hmm. Like, this isn't the space for you. Yeah. And I've said that to a teacher, like, I have a connection over at this school. I'm going to hook you up with them. I think that's going to be a better fit for you. And so it's not just like, you suck, get out of here. Right. Like, no, like, this isn't where you belong. Yeah. But again, in that system of support, let me help you find another place that might be better for you.
To any of them, is it ever like a relief? Like, I've been wanting to quit and, pursue my blah, blah, blah thing, but I've been doing this for like 3 years and I just needed someone to tell me it's okay to do something different. Has that happened or no?
Yeah, I wouldn't say along those lines. But I think it's more like, I didn't expect it to go like that. Like, I thought you were going to bring me into the office. I thought you were going to read me. I thought you were going to be like, you're blacklisted, right? Right. Unless you do something crazy, like, right. Which I've had those stories. Right. But like, yeah, like, no, it's like, thank you. Like, I appreciate you helping me with this transition. Yeah. Right. So it's like, my belief again is like, from the moment you walk through my door as an employee to the moment you leave, you are going to have that system of support.
Sunday, June 27th, join us for EduPodLoza.
There will be over a dozen EduPodcasters.
Listen for some rhythm and rhyme.
That's a poetry slam, boys and girls.
Roundtable discussion.
Just some teachers talking about teaching and laughing and having a good time.
Role-playing games.
Oh, yeah, for you nerds out there, you're going to like that stuff.
Radio drama.
Dum-dum-dum-dum. Ah!
And really funny people.
At least really funny looking, if nothing else. 1 to 9 on June 27th, Eastern Standard Time. We'll be live streaming. There'll be links. We'll put it on the Twitter. We'll make sure that you know where it is. Follow us at Unprocast if you're not already, because that's probably going to be the easiest way to know when it's going live.
June 27th. Free up your calendar now.
Thank you.
Speaking of those stories.
Yeah.
You gotta have some funny stories in the world of education. So, like, if it's, no matter if it's from, like, observing teachers or seeing the kids do crazy stuff or just being at a principal's conference and watching someone lose their mind, What are some of the funny things that happened to you over the course of Williams? How long have you been in education?
This was I think I just wrapped up 15 or 16, one of the two.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see here. So you're right. There are. So remember I mentioned when I first became a principal, I went to a principal's conference.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at this principal's conference. We were down in Indianapolis, and conference. There's a social in the evening. All right. So I'm thinking we're going to sit around and drink wine and have hors d'oeuvres. And when I walked in, they were playing, do you remember that song, the J-Lo song, Big, Big Booty?
No, but okay.
So that's the calmest I've ever heard that phrase said.
Yes.
So imagine your traditional principals, like the principals that we went to school with, in a darkened space with lights, J-Lo's Big, Big Booty song playing, and them doing their best attempt to twerk.
Wow.
I was just like, oh.
Oh dear.
I guess.
Yeah. Like,
I guess once it starts and they gotta relieve that stress.
So I didn't need the bow tie, is what you're saying?
Yes.
It's like, I think I'm going to go back to my room now.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. It was, it was interesting. Let's see here.
Wow.
I have shared a story. I had a parent, who called the cops on me.
Nice.
Yeah.
What did you do?
She was overly belligerent, cursing me out on the phone. And one of the things I tell, my staff, I believe, like, you don't need to be belittled. Like, we are people. Like,
right.
And if you're ever meeting, even if it's face to face, like, I give you permission, get up and walk away. You can come tell me, and I've got your back. Like, you are a person. You deserve to be respected. So I had this parent just cursing at me. I said, okay, Mom, I'm going to hang up now. So I hang up the phone. A few minutes later, she's walking through the front door of the school. And she continues, Mom, hey, look, I can't have you doing this in the space. Like, if you continue, I'm going to have to put things on lockdown. And she just, so my building, we went on lockdown, and, my office manager, when we do that, right? So she called our SRO. Oh, so you're going to call the cops on me? So she jumps on, and so our SRO shows up, and he's like, what's going on? So before I could respond, she starts going off. Well, he hung up the phone on me. He's not, this whole thing. And she's like, so what are you going to do about it? Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to leave. And the entire time I'm just standing there. And my staff, my students, they're like, you never get angry. You never yell. Your face rarely changes. And I was just like, I'm going to wait this out. Like, cause I know where this, like, I'm not going to be removed from my own school. Like, I didn't do anything.
Right.
So, she does. And, a few days later she calls, Mr. Williams, I love you. So it's, just and those have been, I think, the most infuriating to them, because I stand there, we had a parent who was moving her student out of the building, because he kept getting in trouble, and she was mad that we would call out, like, hey, Mom, he's in trouble again. Like, he did this or he did that. So she was transferring it. All right, Mom, that's fine. We're a charter school. It's a school of choice. You don't have to be here.
Right.
Well, I want his discipline file. Okay, Mom. So my dean grabbed his discipline file, and it was a discipline book.
Right.
And the one thing is, like, we believe in restorative justice, so we try over and over and over. Like, your kid should have been under traditional thing. He would have been gone a long time ago, but he's still here. You're choosing to take him out. So we give it to her. She looks at it and like, this is his discipline file. Yes, ma'am. I don't believe it. Ma'am, you can look through it. Those all those phone calls we give you. So she takes it and just flings it. And it's now raining papers in the office. And I'm standing there. I was like, would you like another copy? Just like, you're not going to break this.
No.
And storms out. But it's, like I said, story after story after story. But it's, I think the funniest part, at least for me and for my staff, like you don't break. You just stand there like,
How do you let it not get to you, though?
I was going to say.
What do you do to make sure you don't take it personally?
I don't know. It's who I am. My wife, it infuriates her because it's like, let's argue. Well, you see, the problem with that argument, the logic doesn't.
Oh my! Wow.
And so it's very infuriating. But I think what's important is that you have spaces for that. Like I'll be in my office and I get stressed, and my dean or the office manager will hear me go like, "Rrr!" And it's like, you okay in there? Like, yeah, just letting it out. letting it out. Like, but most of the time it's not about me. You're angry about something else. I had nothing to do with it. Like, yeah. So I'm not even gonna cause I can't, as a leader, right? We carry so much already. I can't carry your frustrations as well. So you keep it. Just keep it.
See, I'm good 99% of the time. And I actually share this with my students and whatever. But it gets me furious with my wife and my kids and my administrators and my students. And I don't know why. And something I just need to work on. But I use the phrase all the time. Don't pee on me and tell me it's raining. And I can't stand. And you know what I'm talking about, right? The administrator is telling me we're doing this, and you're literally saying something that we both know makes no sense, whether it be a student, whether it be an administrator or whatever. I'm like, no. Let's actually that's not true. No, that actually isn't the case. And
I'm like, it's a golden shower and be done with it.
I don't exactly. Don't. We're doing this.
Here in CPS last year, there was a decision by the board that everybody was going to graduate.
Right.
Everybody was promoted.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like most places.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there was a story then released about record high graduation rates.
Yes, exactly.
I was like, well, yeah. Does that count? Can we
right. Right. That's the stuff that infuriates me. Yeah. It's like, oh, we need to raise the graduation rate. But we can get it to 100. It's no problem. We can't get any higher than that. By the way, after we get it to 100, it's going to fall the next year, and it's not going to be the teacher's fault or the student's fault or the principal's fault, but somehow it will be,
See, you say Great Depression. I say record low unnecessary spending.
Yes, exactly.
I had my principal and vice principal. He only lasted 1 year. He wasn't great. He would get on the PA and, on the morning and say, remember guys, the word of the day is on time. And he would say this all the time, and it drove everybody nuts. And somebody finally pointed out to him, hey, that's 2 words. Throwing it out there. He got on the PA system and explained, no, see, some people think it's 2 words, but it's hyphenated when I say it, so it's really just 1 word. And I was in English. Nice. I was in an AP English class when that happened, and my teacher looked at us and said, no, it doesn't. That's not what that means.
By the way,
I don't pause in between. It's on time. So it's
it's a new thing.
Right.
By the way, and I know I'm not the only one. I don't know if you do this to Disco or not. Do you yell back at the PA system in your classroom to Disco?
Every now and then they'll come on the PA system, Mr. Tedesco, and I'll just look up, Lord?
Nice. Well, I do that that's completely different what I'm talking about, because I will do that in the grocery store. When I'll be in the grocery store, and they'll be like, clean up in aisle 4. They'll be like, we're having a special, da-da-da. I'll look at the other person in the aisle that I don't know and go, do you hear the voices too? And then I'll just move on. But no, they'll be like, well, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yes, you already said that 3 times today. Stop making that announcement.
Oh, yeah.
Or
I'll argue and heckle and point out to the kids what doesn't make sense.
Yes. We had a principal that, years ago, I'm at a very large school, Charles, and there's 8 buildings. So occasionally, for certain days, instead of a large dismissal, we have we dismiss by, building, because there's going to be a grab and go lunch, or there's something for some reason that they've determined that we're not going to all dismiss at once. Right. And so the principal would announce the buildings that, okay, dismiss building A. Okay, cool. We're going to dismiss building A. Remember, we have already also dismissed building A. Okay. We're now going to dismiss building C, B, and she would just continually to add to the list. At some point, sometimes it'd be 2 or 3 buildings at a time. At which point, now you're literally in one of the buildings. There's 2 buildings left. And she's like, I just want to tell all the buildings that are that are dismissed. And she starts off with the beginning of the list. And I'm like, just say everybody else can leave.
The lady who swallowed a fly went, right?
Yes, it's exactly like that. I'm like,
the dog,
can you
catch the cat, swallow the cat?
Can you just say everybody else? That's all you got to say. Yes, if you haven't left your building yet, leave now.
Get out. Run. Don't walk.
And I don't know why I get so frustrated by that, but I am. I'm literally like screaming in the hallway at the PA system.
Also, one time on the PA system, when I was back at that school, when they announce it, they give a word. Like A as in apple, right? B as in
God,
boy.
yes.
And one time they were dismissing. They're like, we're now dismissing building K as in cat.
Nice. Could be. Like in Kit Kat.
We're a place of higher education.
Yeah, Kit Kat, like the Kit Kat bar. So.
Like,
yes, and some famous people, some people have the name Cat with a K.
Yeah, Williams.
Yeah, there you go.
No relation.
No relation.
I see.
He does not get the Kit Kat money. He's not heir to the Kit Kat fortune.
Oh man! All right, so Williams, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
If people want to find you and your podcast, where can they find it?
Yeah, so I'm all over. Twitter's the best place to connect with me at _CW Consulting. Same place on Instagram. I just created a TikTok. There's nothing on there, but I figured let me claim the name and then figure out what I'll do with it later.
Nice.
So don't go looking for me there yet.
Ooh, I want videos of angry moms yelling at you. That's what I want. People throwing papers. Yes. Yes. If you can make their discipline record slow-mo as it falls all over the room, that'd be fantastic.
Be in the middle of it like Elsa.
Yes, exactly.
Now, if I see any of these videos out there on TikTok, people,
there you go. Yeah, you want
but yeah, you can also find the show, the Counter Narrative podcast. It's on all the platforms. New episodes every Friday. So excited for that. It's a little over a year old, and I'm also the co-host of Inside the Principal's Office. So those release usually the first and third Saturday of every month. And so if you follow School Rubric, you'll be able to find those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, all over the place.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And whether it's pre-Palooza, Palooza, post-Palooza, whatever, it's kind of like, it's kind of like for those people who study the Book of Revelation, like the pre-trib, post-trib type thing. I don't know if you guys are aware of when the rapture is taking place, but it'll probably be post-Palooza.
Yeah, again, that Venn diagram of overlap of people who know when the rapture is taking place and people who watch EduPodLooza. I don't know.
Can we create a triad?
Well,
yes.
And those are large trucks.
What if the rapture takes place during EduPodLooza? I don't know. But anyway.
The zombies would make more sense.
Exactly.
Really looking for growth in our zombie marriage.
Thank you. So guys, anyway, thank you so much for listening, and stay unprofessional. EduPodLooza, June 27th. Don't forget. Edupalooza, June 27th. Don't forget.